They have a SPAC, and they went public, and he's had two back-to-back quarter earnings reports in that SPAC, and we're going to get into all of that. But the first thing I want to do is say hello to Chris. How are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, everything's going great. We're pulling out of COVID, which is exciting, especially when you have a little kid. So
wait a minute. Hold on. Pulling out of COVID. Now tell me about how. Yeah, because I say here's why I asked the question, Chris, because I find myself saying when COVID during the past COVID, right? Yeah. Like it's over. Yeah. So I find myself saying that all the time because I guess my mental attitude is that it kind of is over. I don't know, and it's not. I'm sure it's not, but I don't know.
What's weird is because as you might imagine, I travel a lot for work, and there's such a disparity between different cities and how they deal with it. So like last week, I was in South by Southwest, and you think Texas, kind of wild and free, and they were trying to enforce sort of a mask mandate with all the South by Southwest stuff.
Right.
But then I was in Washington, D.C. in the back half of the week, and there it's sort of like no masks, no nothing, and they're very much like looking at it as completely in the rearview mirror. And so, it's, and then L.A., despite the state lifting the mask mandate, is trying to maintain certain mask mandates. So it's, I think it's more jolting when you travel right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to Florida next week, and I know that, I always tease my friends, and I got at least a couple of them on this today with us, and that I don't know if COVID ever hit down in Florida. It's that to your point, as you travel, the attitudes of communities, municipalities, geographies are it's very interesting. But I tell you, I listen to my friends and my colleagues and my partners and my guests like you, and I'm telling you, we're talking about it like in past tense.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. In a lot of ways, it is in the past tense. I think, it's just, I think but then you fly, and, the minute you set foot in the airport, it's very much not in the past tense. And
exactly.
So, but it going to the restaurant last week and being able to eat dinner and not have to remask when I went to the bathroom it seems like such a small, trivial thing, but it was like, we're back.
No, really, seriously, it does feel good. It does feel good. Now tell me, I want to dig in just a little bit. I want to everybody kind of understand who Chris Beals is, and really, where are you from? Where'd you grow up, and where did it all begin?
I'm from Pennsylvania, from an area that used to be semi-rural, and then has gotten sort of suburban-fied. But I grew up about an hour outside of Philly. And then went to school in Philly.
You went to Penn?
I went to Penn, and I lived in Philly because I worked at Penn in between undergrad and law school. I was at Penn all said for about 9 years in Philly. Then I went up to New York, did the big law thing, and then moved into sort of like private equity fund side of things. Actually, in between, I went in-house with Deutsche Telekom, Germany's leading telecom and infrastructure provider. And then
sounds like a commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, once you get indoctrinated in Berlin, you never come back. But no. And so I had an unusual path. I mean, I'm an operator and, kind of a very product-focused operator, but I came from a legal background. And I think that there's a lot of successful examples for that, but it kind of blows people's hair back a little who sort of think of people who have that legal background as just being paper pushers and whatever else.
Yeah, but it's a little, more sophisticated than just, Chris came from the legal side. I mean, you got an engineering degree, right? Undergrad.
Yeah. So
you came through from a technical perspective and a legal, and then you went private equity.
Yeah, that's it. And the area I specialized in was startup technology and pharma work. And part of the reason I went to the private equity side was I'd actually advised that fund on some deals, and they liked kind of the way I thought about things from like an operations, deal structuring, restructuring view, because it was a fund that did a lot of funky assets that needed kind of operational cleanup and that sort of thing. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm funny note, my parents, my dad actually had like sort of the one of the earliest mail order computer companies. And so I grew up around parents who always were starting businesses and doing things. And I, to actually pay for law school, I built web pages for companies.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I always, the things I don't think back on too much, but yeah, no, like sweating it out with like some design guys I'd found from Temple and the university, not not the religion.
No, I understand.
But yeah, but you know, and
Philly, I got
kind of making some bucks making websites for local Philly companies. So yeah, that was my background.
No, that's cool. So how did that all get you ready for where you are, man? Tell me that. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing is you know, like look, a lot, part of it was kind of, I always use the analogy of like being before you can own a McDonald's and be a franchise owner, you have to like work there and work at all the stations and everything else.
That's right.
And when I came to Weedmaps, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with the biggest, you know, part of my formation, which is when I came to Weedmaps, it was 65 people. And over the 7 years I've been there, I've been interim, you know, CTO, chief marketing officer, you know, been out, you know, building a lot of the early foundations of our now very large policy team, and out kind of like, you know, selling my wares in fun state capitals like Tallahassee and, you know, Harrisburg and wherever else. But no, I mean, look, I think what drew me to this is I really liked working with founders and doing advisory work back before. And then the other strange thing is I can say this now, I'm far enough out and I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it, but working with life sciences and pharma companies was a great education in sort of over-regulation, really complex regulations. And I think that is now and will always be a hallmark of cannabis, you know, dealing with opioid makers or people doing this. And, you know, the import-export restrictions for drugs from the EU to the US, frankly, were probably simpler than you know, what the differences in law look like between, say, Michigan and Massachusetts. But, you know, there was that aspect. But the other thing is, I think I learned a lot from just seeing how really dysfunctional companies, this is the part I can say now, truly, you know, a lot of companies that I worked with and helped structure deals for and help, you know, on organizational stuff were just dysfunctional companies. And sometimes I think if you're trying to figure out a better path forward, it's kind of good to see people doing it wrong.
Wrong. Yeah. Well, it's even better when you recognize it is wrong. You know, that is true. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So look, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to, when we come back, Chris, we're going to really dig into Weedmaps and what that is and how you got there. I'm really interested in hearing that, and the journey has been tremendous. I'm Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global. And I'm here today with Chris Beals. He's the CEO of Weedmaps, and we'll be right back.